And it is time to go lights out with Krista Voda. Krista, I miss you. It's been so long since we've talked. How are you doing? What's going on in your world?
Hi. Well, it's Krista Kelly now. I mean, you knew me as Krista Kelly, but Krista Voda was on air. Got married. I mean, it's been 15 years PK and I have been married. Wow. And I had kept my name on camera, but now that I'm not on camera, I'm like, oh, I live a normal life. And so, vodka. I will still answer to Krista Vodka for you, of course. But. Which,
now, we will get into the background of that in just a moment. Okay. But first of all, Krista, let's go way back, into the Wayback Machine, okay? You were hired to anchor Totally NASCAR, and the first day you came into town, they didn't want to throw you to the wolves, so they said, Johnny, will you go in and host the show? This new girl, Krista, is coming in, and she'll just observe, which I don't think it's a good thing to observe me. That's probably a bad thing for your first day. And then I was supposed to hang around the next day when you did the show. And if you remember properly, I said, after you anchored the show, I said, you better remember me when you're big time.
I do remember that. I'm still waiting for big time. So we had so much fun, didn't we? I mean, I was so blessed to get to work with you and Steve Burns and just that whole group. Back then, Wheeler TV, Patty Wheeler, all the gang there, Speed Channel, and then through the years, Fox and NBC. It was quite a ride, and it was a wonderful time. I mean, that's where I met my husband. We had our daughter. We took her on the road, but as TV goes, I mean, ask Dick Berggrens and Mike Massaros of the world. It doesn't always work out, and my contract was not renewed at the end of 2020. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have to get a real job. I have to become a grown-up. So I think that's what I did. I'm still waiting to grow up a little bit.
I'm the same way. I'm still waiting to grow up. Well, I remember, Krista, my phone call. It was like a 30-second phone call after 18 years with Fox. They said, hey, we just don't need you anymore. And, I thought for a second, I was kind of hurt, kind of mad a little bit. But then I think you and me see this the same way, Krista, that these guys let us live our dream. We got paid to talk about race car drivers, have fun working together. And it's really hard to have any sour grapes or be bitter.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I was a broadcast journalism major. My goal was to work in sports, to talk about sports. I didn't want to be at the fire at 11 p.m. or the city council meeting. But if that's what it would have been, I mean, if I was able to write and tell stories, I would have done it. But I was really blessed to be a weekend sports anchor in a couple different markets and then cover NASCAR. So how do you have bitterness about that? It's but I still feel like now I feel like I have a skill set that doesn't get used, but at the same time it was used for 20 plus years. So that's not a bad day at the office. So, but I feel the same way. When I got the phone call, it was oh, okay, I'm not gonna do NASCAR. You don't have a spot for me in NASCAR.
Really?
Okay. And I thought, well, okay, I just got done doing figure skating for the Olympics and track and field or whatever it would be, basketball. And it was like, no. And I thought, oh my goodness, like this, it was, but again, it was, I don't miss the travel at all. The travel is, so hard, so difficult, but, I miss storytelling and I miss you, Johnny.
And well, that's I miss you too. Okay, so we got to get into it.
We have a whole history of stories, don't we?
Oh, a big history of stories, and not enough time on the internet to tell it. But Krista, when you first came in, your nickname Krista Vodka did not come from your preference of beverage. It did not come from there. You just so happened to replace a girl whose name was Beers and Rum, and when I just heard it was Krista Voda, automatically you were Krista Vodka.
But didn't you say that didn't you find a brand of vodka?
Yes.
Wasn't there a story where you found something, right?
After years and years of calling you Krista Vodka, me and Mark Amster were in California and probably at a bar. I don't know how maybe that happened every once in a while. But we found that the bottle of vodka behind the bar was Krista Vodka, spelled the proper way too, with a K.
With a K. That's who. Yeah, I don't drink vodka. I kind of wish I did, but I'm a beer and wine girl. That's I'll take an IPA over vodka any day. But yeah, you would always. I mean, if anyone was around us in the garage or at the TV studio, it would be like Johnny TV. I always called you Johnny TV. Yep. Or do you remember my other nickname for you?
The Golden Eagle.
The Golden Eagle has landed. Yes. But I do not remember. Why was that? Why did we start?
There's a story behind that. There's a story behind that. We're working together on Totally NASCAR, and you kind of sit around the office for a while. I was reading an article about an eccentric billionaire that had all his employees. He insisted on his employees calling him the Golden Eagle. And he also had them at one point bring in a bunch of tree limbs and make him a nest. And so the guy was absolutely nuts, and he wanted to be called the Golden Eagle. And so therefore, Krista, you just started calling me the Golden Eagle.
I did. That was what it was. I knew there was a story. I just couldn't remember, but I always would say the Golden Eagle has landed.
Yep, exactly. So that's where we got all that. Krista, you were, and I really wanted to get to this point because I think there's a lot of talk these days about women in broadcasting and women in NASCAR. And I just never thought of you as that way. I just thought of you as a coworker and the most qualified person to be doing the job that you were doing. But at the same time, though, I think you do have to recognize that you were really one of the first, Chris. You were one of the first females in that NASCAR world of TV and in the garage area to really break through. But at the same time, not just as a female, though, but as someone who belonged there. And I always thought just did a great job.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think it's twofold. I think as a female, you don't want to receive the job or have the job because of that, but you also, it's an aesthetic medium. There's a reason that I have a perspective as a female that you wouldn't have, and maybe I bring that to my storytelling. So I don't think it's a knock to say, you're a female in the sport. What I do think is, as a female, and I would say this to young girls all the time, I would speak to college classes, help with sports journalism classes. And I would always say, okay, if the door was opened for you because of that, make sure that you don't just leave it open, you kick it down. Don't be the person that shows up at the garage and doesn't do your research. Don't be the person who just shows up and says, well, I'm the girl. Let it be the reason that the door opened, but then it's your job to make sure it stays open. And if it's going to stay open, go ahead and kick it down while you're there.
And Krista, you were part, and I was part of we're part of a good time in NASCAR TV that we used to open up those cameras and just go. There were no teleprompters. There was hardly a time limit on what we were doing. And I think, it required a certain type of person. You had to be very thick-skinned. You had to be ready to go at any time. And you had to really roll with the punches. But, man, for me, and I believe you too, I thought there was no better way to go about it. I think that lended towards the thing we did at Speed Channel and Speed TV, however many different names there were for it at the time. But that lended it to what the viewers liked. Absolutely. And I think it shows a little bit of the trend in television, when like Robin Roberts, was an athlete sportscaster, Nate Burleson now on CBS Mornings, Michael Strahan. If you've covered sports and you've done your job in sports, you have to ad lib. You have to be able to take a look at the field or the basketball court and say, this is what's happening. I have no script. I'm just telling people at home what I'm observing, and I think that's why, you kind of see sportscasters find themselves in different positions now. I think if you can tell a story, if you can write and you can ad lib and you can just talk with punch, don't just ramble, but find a way. What's the hook? And I say this now, so I will probably get to this, but I'm a producer now. I'm behind the scenes in Pittsburgh for lifestyle shows. And I'm always telling reporters, it's crazy because I don't know, first of all, if they know my former life, like what I did. So sometimes I think they're like, oh yeah, what is she telling me how to report? But it's find the hook. Find the reason that someone at home who has the TV on, but maybe is folding laundry or getting dinner ready or doing something with their kids, find the reason that they're going to turn to that television and listen. And if you can hook them, then you can hold them. And if you can hold them, then you get them interested. And if you have them interested, they're going to watch next week. And that's how you build viewership and fans and loyal followers. But you gotta have that hook first. But I do remember talking about the ad lib. When you said that, it just made me think, where were we and why were we doing the race shop tour? Like we were at different race shops. Yes.
I remember standing with you at Penske And we had to do like a 30-minute show, but there was no script, no teleprompter. It was literally, I looked at you and go, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? All right, well, I'll say this, you say this. Okay, go.
Yeah, that was, Krista, that was called Preseason Thunder, I think.
Okay.
What was it? Was it Preseason Thunder?
Where we just went to different race shops, right?
Yeah. We had to fill up a week's worth of programming. And the first year, I had to do it by myself. And then Patty Wheeler took over the production company. And I said, hey, if we're going to do this again, I cannot do it by myself. I need somebody to be with me. And she said, how about Krista? I said, yes, please, because we can talk to one another. We can continue to hopefully make it at least a little bit more interesting than just me going blah, blah, blah by myself.
So I just added the blah, blah, blah with you. But at least there were two of us. There were two heads going back and forth.
Yeah, I remember our great boss, Rick Miner, saying once, I really wanted to meet David Hill, and from Fox. He was the president of Fox at the time. And Rick was talking to David, and he said, so I walked over to Rick and asked him some stupid question. And he said, because Miner used to talk like this. And he he said, David, meet Roberts. He's the only guy I know who can talk about absolutely nothing for 2 hours. But I took it as a compliment.
Compliment, huge compliment. And it goes back to, I know you're kind of getting to a little bit of, we came from a time where, again, it wasn't scripted. It wasn't prompters. It wasn't, okay, say this line, hit this mark. It was just conversation. And I'm so glad that we were able to do NASCAR TV in the time that we did, because it was just, it was a bunch of friends hanging out, watching racing and telling people at home about it and taking those friends along for the ride.
Do you watch NASCAR now, Krista?
Not as much as I should. So, anyone who knows my husband, PK is the mechanically inclined one. So Phil is, worked in the sport forever as well. Worked with Clint. Actually, that could be a podcast. Clint and PK's stories. Oh my goodness.
Hey, a future episode.
That's a future episode. But, he's the one that would, and it was always funny because if we worked together, we weren't matched up together in the pits a whole lot. But if we were together, meaning he was a videographer, I was the reporter, if you watched us, you would see how much he knew and how much I didn't compared to, I would say, all right, we're going to the 5. We're going to the 5. And he'd say, no, the 2. Because, you're trying to stay in your leader's area. And he'd say the 2. And I was like, no. And so we would split up. I'd go to the 5. He'd go to the 2. And I'd have to come back with my tail between my legs. He was right. Because he was watching the cars. I'm listening to the scanners. I'm getting the emotion, which is what I liked to talk about. I never felt like it wouldn't be authentic for me to try to pretend to be a mechanic or to try to talk about the pieces of the car. I always kind of leaned into, this is what I'm observing. This tire changer is mad. He is throwing stuff down here. I'm giving the observation of what I see based on emotion. But PK knows when a car's in yaw or, the camber, he's looking at all the things that were over my head. It was also probably whenever we'd go in the garage, you go in there and they've got the hood up on the car and they get nervous if, your eyes are there peeking around. So obviously he couldn't come in with the camera, but they also didn't want his eyes to see it because they knew he knew what he was looking at. I could come in there and I'd be like, yeah, it's Krista. She's fine. She's good.
Yeah, that's what we always try to do.
I knew just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. That's what I always tried to do, Krista, right? It was just get one word like camber, and you could throw it out a bunch of times. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Right. Absolutely. Look at this. You have to hit the gong. I forgot I got PK this for Christmas. See that little gong? So there's there's a paper mache E. That's for Emerson. She did that. And then there's a little gong in front of there. I bought him a little, because he wanted a gong to just kind of announce things. And we haven't used it. And I forgot that was there. So that's nice.
I like that. Maybe we could implement that into the Skipper Wiles PK Kelly episode that we're doing. Krista, if I called today and I'm the president of a network and I want Krista to come back and be a pit reporter, would you do it?
Okay. Ooh, the travel would be so hard. Emmy is in so many activities now. What I would do is I would negotiate some kind of, maybe not partial, but let's dabble. I want to be there. I want to be with the stories, but I'm not doing the grind. But I don't know necessarily now without, the practice sessions and the qualifying the way it is. Maybe it's not the grind that you and I knew. So I mean, never say never. Obviously, it's so much easier if PK's on the road, Emmy's on the road too. So that's kind of the dream, I guess. So I miss storytelling. I don't miss the travel. The travel was hard.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I think I'd go back to those days in a second.
Yeah.
Just because I don't do anything else. There's no life here. But I know exactly what you're saying, Krista, when you talk about sometimes you have to move on from something. But we also had that long period of time where we did that every week, where there was that grind. And I think when you do look back on it, things do change, that you have to have a life. And, maybe if I'm president of the network, maybe I will negotiate with you. I'll give you some weekends
Well, here's
off.
what we need. You and I should go on the road and just do some like corporate hospitality, just the
deal,
the Johnny TV and vodka show. And we just sort of show up. We tell old stories like this. We, talk about, I think a corporate hospitality or motivational speaking tour is in our future.
Yeah. So, Krista, you also had the opportunity on several different places to host TV shows with Kyle Petty. Kyle's his goal in life was to make me crack up on the air, was to make me laugh. And he came so close. There were a couple times where we were in commercial breaks and I had tears streaming down my face. And same thing with Kenny Wallace. And those guys we got to work with were great. But I think, Kyle was best man at my wedding and you spent a lot of time with him. Well, what a great dude. What a great opportunity we both had to work with one of the greatest.
And PK and I say this all the time. He is the person we miss. We still talk to him a lot. They're getting ready to go on the charity ride, the Kyle Petty charity ride. We're going to try to meet up with them because they get pretty close to us. So we went and saw, they were on the scouting trip and we went to Bedford, PA and saw him and Morgan and the girls, or the boy. I'm sorry, Emmy went and we saw the boys. So that was wild, the four of them running around. So I've never met someone who can somehow manage to offend someone and enjoy it and just sort of be so happy with his little jab, but also people love him. Like you just love him because he is just so genuine. There is no filter. I mean, we're living in a time when there is filter on everything, and he somehow has managed to just be true to who he is. He does so much for the sport, so much for just fans. He is just the real deal. And we miss him a lot, but I always had fun because there's one time where I said, oh my gosh, Kyle, I feel bad after the show. I don't know if it was a pre-race or a post-race. And I felt like, I was peppering questions. Normally I'd pepper questions to whoever, there's two next to me. And I felt like I wasn't talking to Kyle. And afterwards I said, wow, I didn't really give you a lot of wasn't really in the mood. Didn't really want to talk to you that day so I just didn't look at you. And I realized, I'm making eye contact, and that's where sometimes your question goes. But he also was, he would get all my tears when we were traveling and Emmy started kindergarten and I would miss some things. I didn't miss the first day, but I missed the third day. And he goes, the third day is not, no, PK, my husband said, the third day is not a thing. The third day is not a thing. I go, it is to me. And so I shared that with Kyle. And so he would that whole weekend go, so it's the third one. You want to do this question? It's the third. He kept playing. It was enough humor that it kind of got me out of my own head. So he was definitely more than a broadcast partner. He's a dear friend.
No doubt. And he'd always say, all right, here's the deal. All right, here's the deal. Hey, here's the deal. Here's the thing. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of what I say. Well, Krista, we miss you terribly. We need to make sure it's not 10 or 12 years in between times that we've talked again.
Are we done? Is that it? I have more.
Oh, you got more? Well, keep going.
I don't know. No, I wanted to ask Clint how my hair looks. Has Clint told you the story? So if Clint and I were together, he would always make fun of my hair.
Wait, you did that? Now Clint is producer, photographer extraordinaire of Lights Out. Would you make fun of Krista's hair?
Yes.
Yes. Answer is yes.
Yes, he would.
What was wrong with your hair?
What I would do, we would get ready to do a stand-up, and I would sit there and fix my hair, and then I would get right in front of the camera, and right before I was about to talk, he would say, "Thought you were going to fix your hair."
I can hear that.
You're gonna go on camera like that. But here's the thing. I mean, my husband's the same. So the two of them together, which they traveled together, that was bad news. But
exactly. Hey, so great. I just thought of another Kyle Petty. Krista, you were with us at the very famous and not so glamorous Dale Earnhardt tribute concert at.
I do remember.
Remember?
Oh my
that?
gosh, what was that?
Oh, it was 2002. I think it was 2002.
Wow, was it just the year after? Okay.
Yeah, we're in the Hollywood Hotel. It was the July 1 year afterwards. We're in the Hollywood Hotel. And if you remember this, you have a great memory because I do, but I have nothing else in my head. But trivial things like this. But Kyle Petty looks at Darius Rucker, right? Darius Rucker sitting there, and like 10 seconds before he goes, "Hey Darius, yeah, let me tell you something. Wagon wheel doesn't rock. It rolls. If your wagon wheel's rocking, it's going to fall off." And he's just dead serious. He's telling Darius that his wagon wheel rocked me like a wagon wheel. No, doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. I can remember that event. And yeah, you and I were in the Hollywood Hotel for a while. I feel like we had like a big
Yeah, we were stuck in there. And then once because of rain.
Okay.
And
Michael Waltrip came in.
Yes, we all remember. Michael was late, and he crawled underneath the cameras. And he got up and he sat on the set with us while there was video going on. And all of a sudden, Michael appeared. And he had a red Solo cup with him.
Yes, he did.
And somebody said, "Hey, Michael, can you put the cup down?" To which Michael answered, "Oh, I better. It's Merlot." So that's why for many years we said it's Merlot.
Oh, I just thought of another Kyle story too. So,
good.
Phoenix, rain delay. And so this is the point where, you're not getting home either. I think the race was still going on, but this is where, you do that scramble where you're trying to get a new flight, change your hotel, do your flight.
Know it well.
So I call, Emmy's just a toddler, and I call home. And she's crying. We're up in the booth, I think, in the old booth, the old Phoenix. Remember rickety stairs? Got to run all those stairs to get to the
no elevator.
Phoenix booth. No elevator. And she starts crying. Honey, Mommy's not going to be home tonight. I'll be home tomorrow. She's crying, and Kyle had walked out, probably go to the bathroom, comes back in. All he hears is a toddler baby crying. He's like, "Have we've been here long enough? Someone went and had a baby. We've been here 9 months. Someone went and had a baby." And it was, everyone's just cracking up because it was just those lines. Yeah, I'm like, how does he come up with that stuff so fast? Like that.
I don't know. It's Kyle. And there's a lot going on in that mind. And you never know quite what's going to come out. But that's, really, Chris, when we think about that, probably the last show you did on NBC was with Kyle. And then one of the first shows we did at Fox was the tribute concert with Kyle.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's about 20 years, right? Like 19 years.
Yeah, good 20 years.
It's a good run.
19, 20 years.
It just was. And like I said, that's how I look at like all the friendships we made. And Phil, I don't watch racing the way I probably should. I think it's just when you're out of it, I was a college basketball girl at heart, and but NASCAR gets in your bones a little bit, and you start to care about the people. There's just the PR reps. I miss, it's been such a tough year with, the things that have happened with who we've lost. And I think it's like you hear that, and Phil will read something, or I'll read something. And, for people who are listening, I don't have two husbands. It's PK and Phil are the same person. Many personalities.
Oh, good. Okay. We got to clear that up.
Many personalities. Actually, he wears mechanic shirts. Today he was Sean because he likes to go to like flea markets and get those old mechanic shirts because he's working on his tractors all the time. Today I think he was Sean. He'll be Ed tomorrow. But it's just, you miss the people behind the scenes, all those friendships, because you'd be in the garage for so many hours. It's not the drivers that you would have the time with necessarily. It was the PR reps and just all the people, the other writers. It's just such a great group of people, really, so many talented people, and no one more talented than you, Johnny TV.
Oh, Krista, that's so nice. That's music to my ears. Well, Krista Voda, I am so happy to talk to you. I've missed you terribly. And let's do it again sometime very soon.
I look forward to it.